are ready to go online, so we'll call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. As for our first order of business, I'll ask Councilman Pacina to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise if you are able.
Thank you, Your Honor. Putting our hands over our heart, we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll now ask the clerk to read the call of the meeting, please.
Chief of Police of the City of Middletown, greetings. By authority of the State of Connecticut, you are hereby commanded to summon and notify Eugene P. Nocera, Megan R. Parda, Jeanette Blackwell, Vincent J. Lafredo, Darnell Ford, Edward McKeon, Brady L. Faulkner Jr., Philip J. Pacina, Anthony S. Gennaro Sr., Edward Ford Jr., Linda Salafia, Anthony Mangiafico, members of the Common Council of the City of Middletown, to attend a regular meeting of said Common Council. Said meeting shall be a hybrid meeting to be held in the council chamber of the municipal building in said city and remotely via WebEx at Join a Meeting, event 233-4040-6026, on Monday, May 2nd, 2022 at 7 o'clock p.m. Hereof fail not, but make due service and return to the clerk of said city 3 hours prior to the time of fixed meeting. City of Middletown, April 11th, 2022. Attested by Honorable Benjamin B. Florsheim, Mayor. City of Middletown, April 28th, 2022. I hereby certify I have delivered an attested copy of the foregoing order and attached agenda of the Common Council meeting to each and every council member named above via electronic mail. Attested by Chief of Police, Eric Costa.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I will declare the call a legal call and the meeting a legal meeting. And at this time, I will entertain a motion to accept or amend the agenda, and I'll first call on Councilman Lafredo.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm requesting that we amend the agenda this evening by removing items J through S. Items J through S of our agenda. All of these items deal with resolutions dealing with lease agreements with Keating. And unfortunately, because of some procedural problems as well as some questions in the transition that the Economic Development Committee, in terms of Joe Simolis, now no longer the chair. So these items need to not be removed this evening, and we'll properly take them up at our next EDC meeting, and potentially they will be back. So the request this evening is to remove these items for this evening's agenda, items J through S. That's my motion.
Okay.
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. That was seconded by Councilman Pacina. The motion is to remove items J through S. Items 11J through S, to be specific. Is there any discussion on that? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of the amendment as proposed, please so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, thank you. Matter passes unanimously. Agenda is amended successfully, and we'll recognize next Councilman Nocera.
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion to remove item 3. Was a Scribner error, including Unified Theater, which was on our last agenda, and item 4G. Approval of minutes of the public budget public hearing on April 19, 2022. Those aren't quite complete yet.
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. Second by Councilman Lafredo. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right, thank you. Matter is adopted unanimously. Agenda is successfully amended. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor. Councilman Pacina.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right, thank you. Agenda is adopted as amended, and we'll move on next to approval of minutes. First, item 4A, approval of minutes for the special meeting of April 4th, 2022. Questions to directors. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. That was
Councilman
Thank
McKeon.
you. That was Councilman McKeown making the motion and Councilwoman Blackwell seconding. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right, thank you. Matter passes unanimously. For item 4B, approval of minutes, regular meeting, April 4th, 2022 at 7 o'clock p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. Made by Councilman McKeown, seconded by Councilman Pacina. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. Matter passes unanimously. For item 4C, approval of minutes, special meeting, community meeting on April 14th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved, Councilman Pacina.
Thank you. I'll give that to Councilwoman Blackwell, seconded by Councilman Pacina. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. And I believe a couple more. Item 4D, approval of minutes for the budget workshop fiscal year 2023 on April 11th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved, Councilman Pacina.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Councilman Faulkner.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. Matter passes unanimously. Item 4E, approval of minutes for the budget workshop number 2, April 12th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Councilman Pacina.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Councilman Faulkner.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. And lastly, item 4F, approval of minutes for the budget workshop number 3 on April 18th, 2022.
Second,
you.
Your Honor.
Thank you. That was Councilwoman Blackwell, seconded by Councilman Pacina. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you. Matter passes unanimously. And item G was removed, as we just discussed, so we will now head into our public hearing on agenda items. At this time, any members of the public wishing to address the council on items on the agenda can do so, either here in the chamber or virtually on WebEx. If you would like to speak in the chamber, you may approach the podium and just use the microphone to address the council. On WebEx, if you raise your hand, we will unmute you as you come up, and we will do our best to go back and forth fairly between the chamber and the WebEx platform, although we only have one member of the public here in the chamber, and we will give him the floor now. So we'll just ask you to keep your remarks to 5 minutes and to just state your name and your address before you begin. So thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is J.R. Carnegie Hargraves, residing at 55 Broad Street. I won't mention names because of time, but I want to thank the many departments and people at City Hall and the Common Council for supporting my wife and I since we acquired 545 Main Street. I want to thank the Economic Development Committee for supporting our tax stabilization agreement and you all for approving. I want to thank the ARPA Committee for volunteering your time and energy to making sure our city has a fair and legitimate funding process. Finally, the mayor. I've been fortunate to spend some time with the mayor and observe his leadership style. I've witnessed a team player and the type of leader who is able to bring folks together from all sides of the table. The first time I met with him, he was thinking of solutions on how to help us. The second time I met with him, he toured the project and came with even more solutions and the idea of exploring Urban Act grant money from the state capitol, which we received. The mayor has been generous throughout this process, and we share the same goal of building something our community can be proud of. So, Mayor, I wanted to publicly thank you for your support and great service to our community, and many thanks to you all for your dedication to Middletown. So, until next time.
Thank you very much for those comments, and any other members of the public wishing to speak at this time? All right, seeing none in the chamber and none on WebEx, we will close the public hearing. Thank you again, and we'll move on to our next item. At this time, I'm going to ask the council clerk to please read any appropriation requests and the certificate of the Director of Finance.
Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the Common Council of the City of Middletown will be held in the council chamber of the municipal building.
Your Honor, can you see, she's not coming through very clearly.
Oh, can you hear me?
Now,
Yes?
that's better. That's
Thank
better.
you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Sorry. Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the Common Council of the City of Middletown will be held in the Common Council Chamber of the Municipal Building and remotely via WebEx at Join a Meeting Event 2334-040-6026 on Monday, May 2nd, 2022 at 7 o'clock p.m. to consider and act upon the following. Fire Department, $225,000. Account number 2010-50,000-51971-0500 to cover deficiency due to FMLA, military deployment, and firefighter vacancies, the 2022 Juneteenth holiday, which was not budgeted, and to replace specialty teams' overtime money taken to cover the fill-in line. Any and all interested persons may appear and be heard, attested by Honorable Benjamin D. Florsheim, Mayor, dated at Middletown, Connecticut, 27th of April, 2022. A memorandum to His Honorable Mayor Benjamin D. Florsheim and members of the Common Council from the Finance Department dated April 21st, 2022, certification of funds. This is to certify that funds sufficient to meet the appropriations requested at your meeting on May 2nd, 2022 are available as follows. Fire Fund, $225,000. Respectfully submitted, Carl Erlacher, Director of Finance and Revenue Services.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. And for a motion to that effect, I will recognize Councilwoman Carta.
Thank you, Your Honor. Fire Department, $225,000, account number 2010-50,000-51971-0500 to cover deficiency due to FMLA, military deployment, and firefighter vacancies, 2022 Juneteenth holiday, which was not budgeted, and to replace specialty teams' overtime money taken to cover the fill-in line. Move approval, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor, Councilman Pacino.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on that? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? All abstaining? All right, thank you. Matter passes unanimously, and we will move on to item 8, Department, Committee, and Commission reports and grant confirmation approval. I will recognize Councilman Faulkner for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. Resolution 8, Department, Committee, Commission reports and grant confirmation approval. 8A, City Clerk Certificate. 8B, Monthly Reports, Finance Department, Transfer Report, April 20th, 2022. 8C, Health Department, Account Number 3070-3100-592000X03383-2022. State Department of Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and in compliance with SAMHSA terms and conditions, $16,000. 8D, Board of Education, account number 2450-33000-59405-43480XX, miscellaneous grants, $415,502.12. 8E, Board of Education, account number 2450-33000-52183-XX, cafeteria, food services, $290,161.85. Item 8F, Mattabesset Regionalization Building Committee, final report dated April 20th, 2022. Move approval, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second, Your Honor, and I'd like to speak to 8F.
All right, thank you. Councilman Pacino, you have the floor.
Mayor, for the edification of the council members who are on this council presently, I'd like to just read into the record this report because of the outstanding public support we all received for the Mattabesset Regionalization Force Main and Pump Station and abandonment of the Water Pollution Control Facility project that was undertaken. Before I read it, I'd just like to acknowledge that our building committee, who has been meeting for 9 years, when we started this project and formed the building committee. We had our first meeting on February 26, 2013. The results of our committee, as chairman, we had two new members join us for this last last couple of years, which is Councilwoman Megan Carter and Councilman Anthony Mancafico. Former Councilman Joseph Babisi, my Vice Chair Dale R. Alderi, John A. Giuliano, Elise McDermott, and David Power and Brian Gartner Jr., who was representing the WPCA as a commissioner. Dated April 20th, 2022, as chairman of the Mattabesett Regionalization Building Committee, I'm happy to inform you that the Force Main Pump Station and abandonment of the Water Pollution Control Facility projects is complete. The Mattabesett Regionalization Force Main Pump Station and abandonment of the Water Pollution Control Facility projects were budgeted for a total of $55 million. Included in the total project costs were two referendums, which were approved by our great residents of Middletown, in the amounts of $37 million and then an additional $15 million. There was also an approved loan from the Water Pollution Control Authority in the amount of $3 million. The Forest Main and Pump Station projects were reimbursed by the Connecticut Department of Energy, Environmental Protection for the approved expenditures of 80% loan and 20% grant. Monies received from the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection are as follows. Loan number one, the project 487 DC Force Main, which was the first part, a loan of $15,567,986.44. A grant of $3,880,597.56 for a total amount of $19,448,584. Loan 2, the project was 696C Pump Station, loan $24,530,555.23. The grant was $6,116,191.83 for a total of $30,646,747.06. The total loans and grants received for this project was $50,095,331.06. I'm very happy and elated due to the direction of our building committee that the total budget Force Main Pump Station and abandonment of the Water Pollution Control Facility was $55 million. Our total project costs were $54,398,604.70 for a total cost of and remaining balance to our generous public of $601,395.30. I would like to thank the entire building committee, past and present, for their tireless work and commitment to getting this Mattabesett Regionalization Force Main Pump Station and abandonment of the Water Pollution Control Facility projects completed. At this point in time, as chairman, I recommend the dissolving of the Mattabesett Regionalization Building Committee. Councilman Philip J. Pacina, chairman. And just for historical perspective for my council colleagues, like I said, it was a 9-year project, and we started our meeting on February 26, 2013. But what you don't know, and what you will know now, is this is a 25-year plus project since the late Mayor Thomas Serra dream has now become a reality for regionalization of the Mattabesett concept. Mayor Florsheim you have the distinct honor of being the 6th mayor to guide this project to its closure this evening. From the former 5 mayors, Mayor Tom Serra, Mayor Maria Holzberg, Mayor Dee Thornton, Mayor Seb Giuliano, and your predecessor, Mayor Dan Drew. So it was a labor of love, a lot of hard work, but we all stuck together, and with Walsh Construction Company, we were able to finish, and we crossed the finish line with money left over. And we thank you for your guidance in these last 3 years. Happy to read this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any further discussion on our grant confirmation and committee reports? All right. Well, thank you for those words, and all those in favor of approving these reports and confirmations, please so signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? All right. Thank you. Matter passes unanimously, and I will move on to reports to the council, and I'll take a point of privilege here and go a little bit out of order and address Riverfront first. I have less to say about that. I will have more to say next month with our master plan wrapping up the phase that our master plan with return to the river bend is in. The proposal will be presented in June. So at our June council meeting, I will have a little bit more to share in terms of a preview of what that's going to look like and how it will move into the next phase, which is really going to be working closely with the land use department on some of the zoning language recommendations to realize that plan. But I want to comment now on what Councilman Pacina just mentioned and talked about. It's not often, and I think that the Riverfront project and the sewer regionalization project are two examples of that the folks who lay the cornerstone, so to speak, get to cut the ribbon. They are generational projects. They are years in the making and years to complete. And the reason I mention it is because in many respects, these are one and the same. These are the same project. The Riverfront project would not be possible without the Mattabesett regionalization project that was made possible by that building committee's effort and ultimately by the voters. And so thank you to Mayor Serra and to my predecessors and all of those who had that vision for the 25 plus years to make that possible and to open up our riverfront for redevelopment, for the master planning that we are now working our way through, and to open up the possibility for also a 21st century infrastructure system in our city and in our state, which we need to lay the groundwork for the future. So it should not go unnoticed and without mention. Thank you, Councilman Pacina, for making sure that it did get mentioned. But that is an almost 10-year project nearing completion, or now having reached completion. It's important to mark that milestone and recognize that these things don't happen if the work doesn't come before. And we are in that phase now with the master plan, and we're looking forward to the progress. And I'm happy to answer any questions on that. And I have some more great news to share about our ARPA progress. But any questions on the Riverfront Master Plan? Councilman McKeown.
I know it's not specifically about the Riverfront, but I've had some questions about the Canoe Club and the progress there. I know there obviously have been some delays. If you could just give us a quick update, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So there have been delays with the renovations at 80 Harbor Drive, the former Canoe Club. Unfortunately, some of those have been driven by materials delays and supply chain issues of the sort that we've been hearing about. Some of them have been caused by findings within the building that there were some structural issues that weren't anticipated that do need to be addressed. I was down there last week taking a look with the new tenants, and I know that we are working closely with them to get those orders fulfilled. It's May 2nd. The hope was to have this open this month, I think that the original deadline or the original hoped for date was yesterday. Clearly, we are not quite there. We've had successful progress in replacing the roof. We have had successful progress on identifying those structural issues and getting the materials that we need to address them, and the work is continuing. But there have been some delays. The goal continues to be to have that project finished this calendar year, and we're going to continue to work in that direction to try to realize that. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other questions on Riverfront? Well, thank you. And on the American Rescue Plan, we have been, as I've mentioned in our last few months' meetings at the council, the ARPA task force has also been working very hard and meeting diligently week in and week out. And I'm happy to be able to report now some of the fruits of that labor. It has really been happening. And as you all know, we already approved one ARPA expenditure some months ago with $2.75 million for water and sewer upgrade planning. The ARPA task force last week voted on 8 additional projects, and I will just list them out here and mention a little bit about what they're about. We are going to be voting later this evening on approval for one of those projects, and all of these do have to receive final approval from the council and then to enter into the agreement with the city before any of the funds will be released. So one of these is being voted on tonight by the Common Council. The rest are going to come before this body before the funds are released. There will be more detailed presentation and conversation and Q&A at that time as they come forward. And just appreciate everybody's input and patience and feedback as we work through this. But some great projects have come before us and have presented. Some great projects are being funded as a result of these recommendations, and I'm happy to be able to share them with you all. So first is the item that we're going to be voting on here tonight. This is the applicant is 545 Main Realty, LLC. The request was for $1.5 million. This is for the project that Mr. Hargreaves spoke about during the public hearing, and I want to thank him again for being here and for his kind words. The request was for $1.5 million, and the amount recommended by the task force was $750,000. The reason for that differential is that the project was successful in securing about a little over $3 million in state funding, bonding, and grants to be able to make sure that it was successful, and wanted to try to keep as much of the local ARPA allocation to be spread across as many projects as possible. So that was the recommendation for that project. That will be again coming before this body here tonight. The next item is a joint application by 2 city departments and the Russell Library, which of course is funded by the city. That was Recreation, Community Services, and the Arts and Culture Office working with the library. The title of that project is Healing the Heart, Mind, and Soul of the City. It is a series of summer programs and youth and children facing programs that those 3 agencies will be running together. The amount requested was $491,400 for execution, and the task force recommended that be funded at the full amount requested. The next item is also from the Russell Library. This time it was just the Russell Library applying on its own. The title of the project is Rebuilding Community Connections at the Russell Library, and this is also programmatic dollars for programs that the library will be running and renovations that they will be doing in their building. The amount requested was $250,000, and the task force recommended that be funded at the full amount. Next is the Middlesex Chamber. Their project title is the Side Street to Main Street Business and Leadership Development Program. That will sound familiar to some folks. It is the program that the Chamber has been running very successfully for decades now to provide business know-how and mentorship and guidance to new small businesses, especially minority-owned businesses who are looking to get underway and get their businesses off the ground. It is a proven program. There have been some sponsorship funds that have not been available in recent years, and their request was to help to close the gap on those private sponsorships that have been lost. The request amount was $181,290, and the task force recommended funding in the full amount. Next up is application from Gilead Community Services. The project name is Navigating Wellness in Middletown, and this is providing navigation services for those who are looking to seek and receive mental health care services. The requested amount was $299,826.22. The task force recommended funding in the full amount for that project. Next is the Northern Middlesex YMCA for renovations and improvements to the Phelps Ingersoll Preschool. That request was for $350,000, and the task force recommended funding in the full amount. The next item was for Pause at Home LLC for the construction and establishment of a wildlife center on city-owned open space parcel. That request was for $2 million, and that request was denied. The task force felt that there needed to be some additional partners and information brought to bear before the project would be viable, and did not feel it was an appropriate use of the ARPA funds at this time. And then the last item that action was taken on at the last meeting was an application by Middlesex Health. The project title is A New Home for Behavioral Health, and would contribute to their new facility being renovated and constructed on their Crescent Street campus for behavioral health care services. The requested amount was partial for the overall budget of the project. They were requesting $321,000. The task force recommended partially funding that request at $250,000. So I know that that was a lot of information. You will be getting more information about the specifics of these projects as they come before the council, but just did want to share the background. I will also just refer you, and I'm happy to answer questions, but to the meetings and the minutes of the ARPA task force, all of which can be found on the city website for further discussion, as well as the application materials that were submitted. So thank you, and happy to answer your questions. Councilman Lafredo up first.
Thank you, Your Honor. Based on the amount that could be allocated to entities, requests from folks other than city departments, based on what you just presented and what is being recommended, is there still a balance yet to be dealt with or looked at?
Yes, and thank you for that question. So the total expended so far, assuming that all of the expenditures that I just listed are approved by the council and go forward, is $5,322,000, roughly $5,322,690 out of approximately $21 million total that the city has received for its allocation. That includes the funds that we were given for city-based expenditures, as well as the county equivalent funds that we are receiving. So roughly 1/4 will have been allocated and assigned to a project after these have been approved. There are also multiple applications in the pipeline that have not been voted on yet, but to answer what I think is your question, we have allocated approximately 1/4, or just over $5 million worth of the funds at this time.
Just an additional follow-up, if I might, Your Honor. At this point, in terms of what you read, had been reviewed by the task force and being recommended in one form or the other, how many of them are city department projects? Do you have any of those that actually there?
Good question. I don't have the dollar breakdown, but in terms of the 9 projects that have been voted on and the 8 that have been approved, water and sewer, recreation and community services, Russell Library, are all city agencies or city affiliated, and then 545 Main Street, Middlesex Chamber, Gilead, Northern Middlesex YMCA, and Middlesex Health are all private entities, not-for-profit organizations.
And just one final question. I know in terms of discussion, in particular, one of the issues that came up in dealing with the Department of Emergency Management was potentially in discussion with you and Chief of Staff to encourage the Department of Emergency Management in terms of a Butler building that they wanted to purchase for storage and the eventual need that the city may be faced. Do you know if an application, if That communication has been shared and is a future application forthcoming. Is that anything on that at this time?
That has not been formally applied for at this time. It is something that has come up in discussion, and I will just share that one of the things that the task force and the administration is exploring is creating a sort of a set aside for a certain amount of the ARPA funds, and this is something that's been not just approved, but actually recommended to us by our partners at the federal level to set aside a chunk of that fund to be used for city purposes, right? Meaning that it could be used for emergency management project that you're describing, as well as for other eligible city uses, without having to break down project by project, and while maintaining all of the reporting structures. So to answer the question, hasn't come forward yet before the task force, but it is certainly still in the mix as a possibility.
So I'm just requesting, or maybe just to reaffirm, that yourself and or the Chief of Staff reach out to Department of Emergency Management. That was something that in terms of a phase 3 in particular, it's definitely related to us being able to respond as vigorously as we can, dealing with any potential future pandemic situations. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, and we will definitely follow up on that. Thank you, and we'll go next to Councilman Nocera.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you for your leadership throughout this process. Our mayor's been at both the large committee, which was well established and well put together by his office, and our subcommittee, which I'm also on. I just want to, as the mayor pointed out, indicate that our Water Pollution Control Authority received $2.7 million, and let's remember that was for design work that they're currently putting out to bid, and when those bids come back, the city will have to decide, is this work that needs to be done to upgrade our sewer and water system in the city? Is this something we will bond for in November, or will we be looking for additional ARPA money? But it's essential work, that long-term work that will occur over the next decade. So, of course, it's a significant sidebar issue that we have to pay attention to. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or discussion on ARPA? Make sure there's none on WebEx. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you for your support on all of this. And I'm really proud of the progress that we're making, and the fact that Middletown, I think, is leading the way on this in many ways. So thank you for your support. And we'll move on to item 10, payment of all city bills when properly approved. I'll recognize Councilman Darnell Ford for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. Payment of all city bills when properly approved. I move approval.
Second, Your Honor. Councilman Faulkner.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right, thank you. Matter passes unanimously, and we'll move on now to resolutions and ordinances. And for item 11A, I'll recognize Councilman Gennaro.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have item 11A, approving the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 water billing schedule and the water use and meter charges. Move approval, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor, Councilman Pacino.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you. Matter passes unanimously. And for item 11B, I'll recognize Councilman Mangiafico.
Thank you, Your Honor. Approving an endorsement of the draft Middletown Affordable Housing Plan and sending a favorable recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission for adoption by the Commission. I move approval.
Second, Your Honor, Councilman Pacino.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? All right, I'll want to thank the staff and land use office for their hard work, as well as many others. All those if there's no discussion, all those in favor, please so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right, thank you. Matter passes unanimously. And for item 11C, I will recognize Councilman Pacino.
Yes, Your Honor. Approving that William Perkins is appointed as an alternate member of the Planning and Zoning Commission to a term ending November 11, 2025, filling the vacancy created on April 19, 2022, when alternate Commissioner Joan Liska resigned. And, Your Honor, I move for approval and just want to speak to it.
Great, thank you. Is there a second on that? Thank you, Councilwoman Salafia, seconded, and Councilman Pacino, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. I've had a couple of discussions with, what says William Perkins, with Bill, formally meeting him a few months ago, and he indicated to me that he was hoping and trying to get his start in city government, and that if any opening came up, if we would entertain a motion to appoint him. So our chairman of the RTC, William, he recommended this, and I ran this by our caucus, and it was unanimous to move William Perkins for this appointment. So I just want to let the council know that he's very interested and looking forward to serving. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion on that? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed?
Yay.
Okay, hearing some votes on either side, we will call the roll just for make sure we have the appropriate count here. So, Madam Clerk, just so that you know, I will go down the dais here, and Councilwoman Carta, Councilman Gennaro, I will get to you as I go down the dais here. So, bear with me. All right, Councilman Mangiafico.
Nay.
Councilman Ed Ford.
Aye.
Councilman Pacino.
Aye.
Councilman McKeown.
Nay.
Councilman Lafredo.
Nay.
Councilwoman Carta.
Nay.
Could not hear Vincent Lafredo.
It was nay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Councilman Nocera.
Nay.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Nay.
Councilman Darnell Ford.
Nay.
Councilman Faulkner.
Nay.
Councilman Gennaro. One more time, Councilman Gennaro.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Salafia.
Aye.
All right. I have 4 votes in favor and 7 against. So the matter fails, and we will revisit that appointment.
Okay. Your Honor, if I may, then I would.
Madam Clerk, sorry.
I have 4 aye and 8 nay.
I must have. I was going to say I don't think anybody's absent, so that was my mistake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I will bring this back to our RTC committee, and hopefully we'll get another name brought forward so we can move collaboratively in filling this alternate position, which is a minority party position. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Councilman. Thank you, everybody. And we will move on to item D. I'll recognize Councilman Nocera for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. Approving and authorizing that the mayor sign all documents and/or agreements necessary to effectuate the transfer of the properties located on 395 Country Club Road and Country Club Road 070498 to Middletown Youth Soccer, subject to approval as to the content and form by the Office of General Counsel. I move approval, Your Honor, and I'd like to speak to this item, please.
All right, thank you. Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay. All right, thank you. That was Councilwoman Salafia and Councilman Nocera. You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. I enthusiastically support this transfer of property, and if I could explain my reasoning. The history behind this transfer is perhaps, as you were talking about, generational. I have to thank our youth soccer organization for the thousands and thousands of young men and women who have benefited from the program, and youth soccer has worked diligently to establish themselves in the community, working collaboratively with our Parks Department and our city agencies, so our children benefit from this wonderful program. And the issue started to develop historically when the previous council had approved that artificial surface be put into the facility, and we, of course, have an ordinance that prevents that. So at that point, when that occurred, and there were provisions set up at that time for youth soccer to understand the limitations of the artificial surface, we could no longer support, because of the ordinance, we could no longer support any improvements of the facilities. We didn't feel that was appropriate. And as the chair of the 21st Century Parks project, we had numerous requests and legitimate requests from youth soccer to upgrade the facility. And this goes back years to add restrooms, to add a pavilion, to add improved parking, fencing, field repairs. This we could no longer help them with. And over the time, I have to say, we have allowed those fields to not really be up to standard in our community. We have a $35 million parks bond that cannot support, and I totally agree with that provision of those fields. They're not up to standard for our young men and women. And this bill of sales, allows for them to now apply for a bank loan, which they weren't able to do in the prior situation, to fund those improvements, bathroom facilities, the parking lots, which are really just gravel and fencing, a pavilion that's very necessary, bleachers and such, that none of these fields have. And the city is protected in this bill of sales and I commend our general counsel, because it was a long process, a negotiation process with Middletown Youth Soccer, that there is a reverter clause. The reverter clause says that this bill of sales is only good for Middletown Youth Soccer. They cannot build privately on it. This is only for recreation, primarily for soccer. It cannot be turned over to anyone else. If Middletown Youth Soccer ceases to exist, the reverter clause reverts the property back to the city of Middletown. The provision is still for youth soccer to tear up the artificial surface and return it to natural grass. So the city is fully protected, and I feel that this agreement is a huge benefit to our community and the thousands of students and children that will benefit from this facility, because now will be able to do the necessary improvements, which I encourage our council to go out and tour. They are needed, and I feel this is a huge win for our city. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilman Nocera. Any further discussion?
Your Honor.
Councilman Lafredo.
Clearly, the Middletown Youth Soccer that has been operating in the city has been doing an outstanding job, and that job began in 2005, where the city entered into a 99-year lease for them to do the work that Councilman Nocera has articulated. And then that lease was modified in 2011, and then that was in terms of a 25-year lease agreement. So based on that agreement, which basically nullified, I guess, the 2005 agreement, there are 14 years left to go. So there's no intention here in any shape or fashion to disparage the work of Middletown Youth Soccer and what they have been doing. But this is a major shift that we're being asked this evening to enter into at this time. I think at a minimum, there's a number of questions, but, though there's a statement in this whereas in terms of the deed restrictions, and whereas shall be encumbered by deed restrictions stating the properties can be used only as soccer fields for recreational amenities, including without limitation concessions, open space, associated improvements related to the use of the property as associated property, recreational amenities and open space, including but not limited to parking and lighting. We do not have with us, nor have we seen, I think it's appropriate for us to see in the community to see a plan of development that if we're going to, at some point, the city is actually going to turn this 35 acres piece of property over to them to develop and utilize, and a number of other questions have been raised. So, Your Honor, I'm asking, and we'll be making a motion to table this evening, allowing for further review and discussion, and to be brought back after such review and discussion have occurred, some of the questions that have been raised this evening. So I would so move to table the resolution this evening.
All right, thank you. Motion's been made to table the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilman McKeown. Is there discussion now on the motion that's been made on the floor and seconded to table?
Yeah. No discussion on a tabling motion, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. All right. We will move now to vote on the motion to table. I will call the roll again as I did before. So starting with Councilman Anthony Mangiafico.
Nay.
Councilman Ed Ford. That was aye? Okay, thank you. Councilman Pacino.
Nay.
Thank you. Councilman McKeown.
Aye.
Thank you.
We couldn't hear him.
Who are you for?
Councilman Pacina.
Councilman Pacino was aye. Or excuse me,
No, nay.
nay.
You voted nay.
Nay.
Thank you. We have two nays and two ayes, I believe, so far. Councilman Lafredo.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Carta.
Nay.
Thank you. Councilman Nocera.
Nay.
Thank you. Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Ford.
Could not hear her vote.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Darnell Ford.
Nay.
Thank you. Councilman Faulkner.
Aye.
Thank you, Councilman Gennaro.
Nay.
One more time, Councilman.
Nay.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Salafia.
Nay.
All right, thank you. I have 5 votes in favor and 7 votes against. Madam Clerk, is that?
I have a vote from Councilman McKeon.
Councilman McKeon's vote was
Aye.
aye, I believe.
Okay. So yes, 5 aye, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 aye and 7 nays, so the motion to table fails.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody's motion to table fails. Will remain in discussion here for the item on the agenda. So any further discussion on item 11D?
Here.
Councilman Lafredo, did you want to?
No, Councilman McHugh.
Okay, Councilman McKeon.
Yes, Your Honor. After the questions that were put to our city attorney, I think there are significant questions that remain unanswered on this. To the extent that the reverter clause does not exclude other organizations that are recreational organizations, I think it puts us in a bind that this could be sold to, as Councilman Lafredo indicated, a national organization. A stadium could be built there because it's for a recreational purpose. I agree that we don't have a full sense of what the 35 acres will be used for, other than the present fields and the footprint of the present field. And as a city that has worked hard to create open spaces, it would seem to me that we would make sure that the open space that's available there would be left as open space, as opposed to have it available for development as additional fields. I understand completely the good work that the soccer organizations have done and the need for it, and also understand the cost and the need that sits on the city's shoulder to get the work done. But given the unanswered questions and the information that my colleague brought forward, I will not be supporting this motion tonight.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. We'll go next to Councilwoman Blackwell, followed by Councilman Nocera.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to sort of explain my nay this evening. I'm certainly in support and understand that the fields are in need of repair. I think the part that I'm struck by and thinking about as I consider the purchaser's ability to resell the land, knowing that they're purchasing it for $1. That part, for me, I'm struggling with and cannot support it this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Nocera.
Your Honor, I respectfully would like to call Attorney Briggs Smith to ask him a question, if that's possible. My colleagues?
Sure, I believe he's...
I agree, Your Honor, that should be allowed. I totally support recalling Briggs Smith if he's available. Sure.
Okay, he is coming up on the screen. Greg, can you hear us? Greg, can you hear? Yes, we can hear you. Councilman, go ahead.
Greg, if you could reiterate the protections in this bill of sales that exist for Middletown Youth Soccer, if they cease to exist, what occurs?
Let me pull up the language right now.
Greg, you still with us?
I am. I'm still looking for it. I apologize.
No problem. Why don't we go to Councilwoman Salafia? I know you have a question that might be for
I just have a couple of comments. It's my understanding that we do not have, and I could be wrong, and and I welcome anybody again to tell me I'm wrong, but I don't believe that we have an ordinance outlawing or prohibiting artificial turf fields in Middletown. We do have it as part of the bond ordinance where you cannot use that particular bond money to pay for artificial fields. So that really is not part of, should not, in my opinion, be part of this discussion. We have numerous artificial fields in Middletown. Also, the fact that if for some reason they wanted to sell this property to somebody else, despite whatever covenants there are, we have a planning and zoning board who is in charge of deciding what can be built, where, and how it can be built in Middletown. It's not our choice, particularly here, to debate that tonight. That's what planning and zoning is for. So if they sell it and somebody wants to build something that planning and zoning doesn't approve, it's not going to get built. So I'm not sure why we are taking it upon ourselves to make decisions about what the future might happen to that piece of property when we don't really have a say. It's planning and zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We'll go back to General Counsel Smith.
Yeah, so it's Exhibit B for the purchase and sale agreement, which I can find it immediately.
Greg, can you amplify your speaker? Okay.
I will do my best. It's
Okay,
Exhibit
thanks.
B to the purchase and sale agreement, and it reads that there's a restrictive covenant that the property being conveyed must be used for the purposes of creating, maintaining, and using soccer fields, recreational amenities, including without limitation concessions, open space, and associated improvements related to the use of the property as soccer fields, recreational amenities, and open space, including but not limited to parking and lighting. Now, if Middletown Youth Soccer or its successors or assigns, and we have a non-assignment provision, so we would have to consent to any assignment, fails to comply with this restrictive covenant, the property reverts to the city of Middletown for the benefit of the youth and citizens of Middletown to be used as recreational open space or anything related thereto.
Councilman Nocera, does that answer your?
Yes, it does answer my question.
Thank you. Councilman Lafredo.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Brigg, for coming back on to follow up with some additional questions or clarifications. So I've looked through the agreement, the sale agreement, and on the resolution, the statement that you just articulated is clearly articulated in the resolution before us this evening. I did not find, however, any definitions on the terms being utilized. Recreational amenities. Do you know what that means? Is there does that defined anywhere within the sale agreement?
No, it's a defined term. And I think just use common sense and broadly speaking, we're talking about anything related to soccer fields themselves, enjoying the soccer fields, visitors come to see the soccer fields. So, but no, it's not a defined term, and we didn't narrowly restrict it.
So that's pretty wide open then in terms of common sense would be the argument, I guess, in terms of what they decide or not decide. Limitation, not limitation concessions. So that's wide open then in terms of this is defined as how many concessions and so forth would be put out there, correct? Without limitation.
Again, I mean, so it would have to be related to concessions, but there's no defined term, and it would just to convey what's sort of there right now, but to make sure that there would be ability if there is something in the future.
Now, the plan, so I think I asked this earlier, but just for the record, based on our discussion at this time, did at any time they submit for review and say, these 35 acres, our short and long-term plan of development is X, Y, and Z. Was there a plan of development provided to your office?
No, but I don't envision there being any development aside from it remaining soccer fields.
Do you know, based on this, there's a statement that the Planning and Zoning Commission approved it at a regular meeting. Was that just a statutory improvement that they generally take, or were they actually dealing with a plan of development?
No, standard 824 review, because you're dealing with disposition of public property.
Mm-hmm. And do you know whether or not, so it does utilize the term both a couple of times in the whereas twice, of the 35 acres, how many acres would be retained as open space? Do you know?
I don't, although I view the entire footprint as being encompassed within it. So I don't view this as, someone could segregate off 17 acres and say, well, I'm going to do condominiums here, because I view the entire thing as.
No, that was not, I'm not talking about development. I'm talking about, of that acreage, how much of it will be left as open space?
Yeah, I cannot say for sure. I mean, my view would be all of it, but I would have to verify that.
Could this development, in terms of course, sports fans are going to show up appropriately so to observe and be part of the various, play and what's happening there on this place. So, is there any indication in terms of as an amenity in order to provide for folks to attend these events or these soccer matches and so forth? Is there any limitation on what they might be able to build to support whatever they develop now and in the future in terms of fans being able to attend?
I'm sure there's in building, zoning, you'd have to be consistent with, as Council Member Slafi said, the plan of conservation and development. So any, and certainly any building permits would be required, anything like that. Anything else, you'd have to go through all the necessary approvals.
So the only impact is mentioned here at this point is the cost of maintenance and water consumption, I guess, that's being utilized out there with water and potentially at some point sewer and so forth. And it doesn't take into account the assessed value or any recognition of the value of the property that's currently owned by the city. That's not recorded or in any ways recognized at any point in any of the agreement. So I just encourage my colleagues, I know it was voted down not to pause a little bit on this and get some clarification. That this is before us this evening, plan, in terms of what we do going forward here at this point. We have a responsibility to the taxpayers of the city of Middletown. We all do. I'm not taking anything here for granted. I mean, you all will look at this and you believe this is in the best interest of the taxpayers and the long-term interest of the citizens of Middletown. Either that's both the short and long-term nature of this. And in no way based on, there's these folks that have run, some of them, that worked hard and long and have exercised this. They clearly have, based on what's been filed with the Secretary of State, done this in a very fiscally responsible manner. Clearly there are other entities that clearly are leasing this property or providing, paying somebody some over $900,000 to being raised to the Middletown Youth Soccer, which they are utilizing to support all of the various programs and pay for the utilization and the tryouts and so forth. There are entities, in particular, there's one that advertises clearly Sporting Connecticut, Country Club Road Fields, 395 Country Club Road, Sporting Connecticut group. Join us upcoming 22-23 season. which they operate, I understand, a very good program, and people pay to send their children there to that and to get the kind of training and so forth. That aside, the question before us this evening, because this can't move forward unless we sign off this evening, and there are too many unanswered questions in my mind to be at this time not clarified, not at least a preliminary plan of development, no clear definition of what we're actually talking about on some in terms of the whereas recognition and what General Counsel just reiterated this evening through questions through Councilman Nocera. So I urge my colleagues at this point to vote no on the proposed resolution before us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll go next to Councilman McKeown, followed by Councilwoman Blackwell.
I have a question for Brig Smith, too, if you're still there, Brig.
I am.
Okay. I hear that there are deed restrictions, although they seem fairly wide open as long as it's soccer. If this were to be approved tonight, is there anything preventing Middletown Youth Soccer from selling this property at, let's just say, the assessed value next month to another party?
There's a couple things. One is that the purchase and sale agreement is the prerequisite to actually convey a deed. So if something between now and closing and actually transmitting the deed were to occur like that, that would be an issue. The second thing is that there is a non-assignment clause in the purchase and sale agreement.
Can you, Brig, can you get closer to the mic, and I'm going to ask them to turn up the volume in here?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I spoke way too soon, it seems, when I, took a victory lap about the moon landing. No, what I was saying is that there is, between the purchase and sale agreement, which authorizes the transfer, and the actual closing, there would be time to address that. And then there is the a non-assignment clause as well, saying that it's going to be binding just to the parties and their successors and assigns, and they may not assign the agreement or any of its rights, interests, or obligations without the prior written consent of the non-assigning party in its sole discretion. So I view at least during that period between now and closing, that the city would have the ability to say, no, we're not going to.
Okay, so time period, 6 months, a year from now, would there be anything to prevent this property from being sold?
Ultimately, no. Once title transmits to Middletown Youth Soccer, they could sell it, but it would have to be, again, consistent with the deed restriction.
So would it be unheard of to put a restriction in that said it could not be sold to any party for any use without the city getting right of first refusal?
Yeah, it's a restraint on alienation at that point. So without getting too far into property law, to do something like that is sort of contingent reverter would be very difficult. I'm not sure it'd be legally possible.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one more question. I assume it's going to fall in the same category. If it were sold to another party, is there anything in the contract that would prevent that party from restricting Middletown residents from using the field? In other words, if it was sold to a party who wanted to use it for another set of players, which did not include Middletown players, could we restrict it that way, or is it the same kind of prevention?
Same issue, although we're sort of in the same boat right now. I mean, it's the Middletown Youth Soccer is leasing exclusively and using exclusively, so we're not enjoying that privilege at this moment either.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. We'll go next to Councilwoman Blackwell, followed by Councilman Nocera.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to go back to Councilman McEwen's question, and if I heard you correctly, the first question that he raised, Attorney Smith, regarding the resale of the property, I guess for me, that's the concern I have. If I heard you correctly, I believe you said between purchase and sale, the purchase and sale agreement, that the property could not be resold. My concern is, and I started out this evening wanting to support this particular resolution until I heard Councilman Lofredo talk about the assessed value. And so I'm trying to wrap my head around the assessed value and the fact that we're selling the property for $1. So can you help me to reconcile how we got to the dollar sale amount, please?
I can certainly attempt to do that, and Councilmember Nocera actually has lived more history than I have on this, and he may be able to supplement where I am. But we're at this point after, I mean, really decades of dealing with this. There was an exchange back in 2005 where there was a 99-year lease that was entered into, and and Gene, you're going to have to help me here, but there was a land swap of some kind where the city ended up with the Long Hill Road property, the Middletown Youth Soccer ended up with Country Club Road property, and the Long Hill Road property is, I think, fairly valuable, and in their estimation, they had a benefit of a bargain of a 99-year lease. That is no longer a 99-year lease based on that. So in their estimation, I suspect they gave up substantial value previously when they went into a shorter-term lease in 2011. So I think to look at this, as a one-off, this is the deal, and we're somehow selling a piece of land at less than assessed value is not the way to look at this deal. And the $1 figure is it's pretty common when you are doing a land swap of some kind or a transfer of some kind. You $1 and for other good and valuable consideration. So it's just to make it is a contractual matter, legally binding consideration. But there's no question. I mean, $1 is not the assessed value. But again, I don't think the assessed value is the way to look at this. On the other side of the equation as well, and Councilmember Nocera spoke to this a bit, we had been looking at in the 21st Century Parks Bond about $3.3 million worth of public improvements here. And Councilmember Salafi is correct. There was a prohibition on field turf, not in ordinances generally, but in the bond ordinance specifically. So to make Middletown Youth Soccer work, this was flooding and required all kinds of upkeep. Our public works crews and directors were telling us ad nauseum, this is killing us. And Middletown Youth Soccer was telling us that they can't be competitive. They can't get kids to come there because the fields get torn up and they just can't handle the volume, and they can't handle just regular maintenance of the fields. And so to try to get to a place where Middletown Youth Soccer could actually not even succeed but survive, we had to come up with a fairly clever, I think, but complicated structure where they could install at their own cost, and as I said in questions to directors, make sure the city was nonetheless protected with doing their own field turf to try to get around the bond prohibition. And even then, what you're seeing is a half measure, and it's not good for anybody. So, we're continuing to have to maintain the other three fields and everything around it, and they are continuing, I think, to feel like they're at a competitive disadvantage. And the other piece is, if you look at the 2011 lease, now I disagree, but there is definitely an argument to be made that the concessions, the other infrastructure, the other support structure, the parking, the pavement, all of that is fairly encompassed within the $3.3 million public parks bond that was set aside for Country Club Road soccer. Because you can't spend $3.3 million on a field alone. It was, in theory, anticipated to be for the entire complex. So this isn't just $1 versus whatever assessed value is on a field card. This is take into consideration the decades worth of transactions and value that's gone back and forth with a deal that's changed over time, and the investment not only with our public works department right now having to invest whatever the fiscal impact was, $78,000 a year on this. But the potential cost to taxpayers of having to spend and fight over spending all that bonded money. So that's, to me, Councilmember, I think it's a great question. I understand it, but I don't think that looking at it as just the dollar versus the field card is the proper way to look at this deal.
Okay, thank you. So you're suggesting we're not comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Smith.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We'll go next to Councilman Nocera and Councilman Pacina for discussion.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Brig, for your explanation. And I'll just reinforce what you just indicated. And I did at the beginning talk about how the Parks Bond, once the artificial service was installed, and as Councilwoman Slafi indicated, there was a prohibition to spend any further funds. Yes, there was $3.3 million allocated to our two soccer fields on the initial Malone and McBroom feasibility study developed in 2015. We spent very little of that, and now that has been transferred to the improvements that we need to make on our pool and splash pad at Veterans Pool. And so the taxpayers are benefiting in another way, perhaps if you look at it that way, that absolutely essential with the cost that's escalating all around us. But let me point out another important factor. The development plan for the soccer fields, as Councilman Frito indicated, what's the development plan here? That's pretty clear because they have come before Public Works Commission and the 21st Century Bond Commission, Parks Bond. Their plan was bathrooms at Country Club Road, which they don't have, and there are very costly because there isn't a way to bring sewer into that field, so they have to develop through state approval on their own, if this is approved tonight, to put in a retention system, and that's a costly procedure. They understand that, but it has to be done. The next thing they wanted to work on was a pavilion at Country Club Road. The parking lot is in disarray. Fencing needs to be upgraded. The fields need to be improved. So clearly these fields are not up to standard for what we are currently doing across the city with our Parks Bond. So as Attorney Smith indicated, it's not, other factors need to be put into place here. I believe that this is absolutely the right time to move on this. The city would benefit from this, and most assuredly, the children and families that use these facilities deserve better. And they're willing to now seek the loans that are necessary to begin the development of these fields. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilman. We'll go next to Councilman Pacina, followed by Councilman Lafredo.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Brig, under Section 7, to address the open space issue brought up by Councilman McCune, it clearly states, 7A, seller shall preserve and maintain the properties in their usual, normal, natural condition, and except as may be otherwise specifically provided in this agreement, will not remove any foliage, shrubs, or trees from the properties, change the grade of the properties, remove and add material from or to the properties, remove any improvements or construct any new improvements to the properties, or perform or cause to be performed any other changes to the condition of the properties from which exist on the execution date of this agreement, other than may be necessary to preserve and maintain the properties. Seller shall not further encumber or give, grant, or convey any easement, leases, license, or other interest into the properties or the buyer's prior written consent. So, simplistically, the land is worth, according to Councilman LaFredo, over $1 million. And your best guess, we turn this over to a well-deserving organization that is proven to be a recreational avenue for all of our children at various ages, has stuck with the city from the Long Hill properties, which they fairly maintained, and they gained access to this area, as Councilman Councilman Acera stated, the new elements that they're going to put in there. So, question, Brig, does the city chance a loss of over $1 million of these 35 acres or 32 acres that exist up there at any given time? Personally, I don't see it. And the work that they're going to provide is going to upgrade that property for added recreation for our children and youth, which is much needed. As chair of the Recreation and Community Services Committee, we see grants come in all the time from youth soccer. They're growing. They're growing expeditiously. They need the other fields. They're good caretakers, and they've proven that from the Long Hill Road, original Long Hill Road fields. So I, for one, is going to support this. But, Brick, can you answer me? Is the city going to be out $1 million? Because I don't see it with this organization, with the dedication they have put in over these years. Thank you for your time.
So, short answer, no, because there's nothing we could do about it at this point anyways. It's locked up through 2036 with another 25-year option. And to try to, flip it for redevelopment on the city side it's hamstrung by the same issues that would hamstring any potential future developer, which is, open space, wetlands everywhere, which we haven't even talked about. There's wetlands everywhere. So, I don't view it as the city being out $1 million. I see it, that city is out money already, annually trying to take care of it. That's, I guess, how I would view it.
And the final arbiter on this, should this pass tonight, which I think it will, the final arbitrator will be the Planning and Zoning Commission for whatever someone or some group may think of trying to put improvements up there, as Councilwoman Salafi alluded to. To me, in my mind, they're the final arbiter before it gets to you. Am I right?
I think there are a number of additional checks after this that would occur, including, like I said, building department, building permits.
Yeah.
It'd have to be consistent with zoning and all of those things. So this is, there are other checks in the system if it went beyond simply being soccer, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Councilman. We'll go next to Councilman LaFredo, followed by Councilwoman Salafia.
So, just so for the record, and just as a question.
Can I call the question, please?
No.
Councilman LaFredo has spoken now. This will be third
No,
or
that
fourth
could
time.
be your honor. You recognize me at this point
Your
to
choice.
ask follow-up on questions. If I'm being called, if you called me, are you calling me out of order?
Well, if the I've called on you to ask your question, so to continue discussion really, which is
Right.
what we're doing, and so, let's continue the discussion and then resolve
I
the
appreciate
question.
that. Thank you, Your Honor. So for the record, I'm not aware of, and nor do I see anything on the record, and nor do I see anything in the research that I have done, that the city agencies, recreation department and so forth, or the schools or somebody, in terms of utilization of this property, is in terms of reviewing budgets. I stand to be corrected, so I ask a question in terms of the youth of the city of Middletown, in terms of there are any arrangements currently in effect that guarantee the young men and women that are in our schools or in soccer programs have direct access to the use of this facility? Sure, thank you.
Sure, thank you. That's a good question, and I can say emphatically, yes, yes, yes. Youth soccer has been nothing but absolutely bent over backwards for our schools, for our recreation department, every step of the way. When they can make their fields available, they have. I cannot say enough about how cooperative they've been. They bend over backwards for our city departments. And if you want any proof of that, I can get you that, and the entire council, dates.
Okay, so they're saying that they do when it's available.
Absolutely.
So they're providing.
I could give you an example. We had situations at Beaman, of course, with construction. Where did the kids go? They went to Long Hill for 2 years.
Very good, excellent.
And on and on and on. I can give you.
So the question I have was raised earlier regarding the other aspect of this arrangement that's entered into is the notice of termination of lease agreements. And I call folks' attention to the termination sections 3 and 4. And in particular, section 4 reads that the parties acknowledges and agree that the Middletown Youth Soccer shall continue to enjoy priority use rights with respect to the Long Hill Road property, which priority use arrangement shall not be affected by this agreement and shall continue and be implemented in substantially the same fashion as it was prior to the date hereof. So we have this termination agreement regarding termination of the leases, but that language is clear and unambiguous in plain common language, that in effect that the lease arrangement with the Long Hill property shall continue under their control, so forth type of thing. So that's I wanted to, for the record, indicate that that's part of what we're being asked to improve, which raises some serious questions regarding what's being given and so forth in the arrangements that are being made here for us this evening. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Councilman McKeown, did you have a?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, and Brig, if you could help me with this, my colleague, Phil Pacina, read a clause, which I think there was some confusion, that he indicated that the property could not be changed by the people buying the property. The clause says clearly the seller shall preserve and maintain the properties in their usual, normal, and natural condition, not the buyer. So to be clear, the buyer will be able to, with permission of planning and zoning, make changes of any kind on the property, of any kind on the open space. Is that true? Brig?
So the provision does relate to the city's ability to make changes before closing. And so
Correct.
Supposed to make any changes, standard, we can't, turn it into a carnival before we try to close.
Right.
Then afterwards, again, consistent with, as long as it's being used for the recreational purposes, and soccer, and as long as it fits within, building, zoning, all those other regulations, then yes, they are able to make changes.
Okay, and I have one final comment, and this is for my friends who know more about this than I do, like my friends who are advocates for the environment, and I think every decision that we make in this city ought to have in mind the good of the environment, the overall effect. There is already one artificial field up there, and it appears to me that once this belongs to a private organization, they can build as many artificial fields. And I know from the research and from talking to my friends who are friends of the environment that those fields are not good for the city, are not good for children, and are not good for the environment. So I think if the goal is to build additional fields that are artificial fields, and the reason we have that clause in our park bonds is because the people of the city voted to have natural fields as opposed to have artificial fields. And so that we will be handing over a piece of city property that potentially could be developed to have more artificial fields. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Nocera, do you have a comment? And then
No, there was a, Councilman Slafia called the question.
well, and we need, and yeah,
And so
we'll have to
finally,
revisit that.
in terms of priority scheduling, and you could ask Brigg, clearly in his negotiations, that's a term. It doesn't mean they have exclusive rights to the field. If you called Brian Young, our director of Parks supervisor, he would say they have been nothing but unbelievably cooperative to assist our departments in rescheduling when we need help. And I fully expect that will continue every step of the way. Priority is their priority. Scheduling, we try not to interfere with that. But around that, we get to use it all the time. Thank you.
A point of order, Mayor. Councilwoman Salafi asked for and moved the question. I'm going to second it. We've debated, and this is not supposed to be a debated session. Questions? Fine. We're repeating ourselves. So I wholeheartedly support her motion to move the question.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion on the underlying motion? All right, in that case, we can proceed to a vote, and I will call the roll. This is for item 11D. Councilman Mangiafico.
Aye.
Councilman Ed Ford.
Aye.
Councilman Pacino.
Aye.
Councilman McKeown.
Nay.
Councilman Lafredo.
Nay.
Councilwoman Carta.
Aye.
Councilman Nocera.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Nay.
Councilman Darnell Ford.
Aye.
And your Councilwoman Blackwell.
Councilwoman Blackwell, nay.
Nay.
Councilman Gennaro.
Aye.
Councilwoman Salafia.
Aye.
Councilwoman Salafia, aye. Okay. I have 8 votes in, did I skip somebody? I'm sorry.
Councilman Darnell.
I apologize. Councilman Darnell Ford. I got you. And that was Councilman Faulkner.
Nay.
I apologize. Nay. Thank you. I have 8 votes in favor and 4 votes
I did
against.
not hear Councilman Darnell Ford.
Aye.
Thank you.
I have 8 votes in favor and 4 against, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Matter is adopted. And we will move on to item 11E. I will recognize Councilman McKeown for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a motion, a resolution approving in anticipation of receiving a Sustainable Materials Management SMM grant from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, support of a pilot program in the Sanitation District, and to alter the waste collection and processing procedures to take advantage of the SSM grant, and new innovative processes to reduce waste and manage residential organics in a more sustainable manner. The pilot will last 1 year, and staff will continuously evaluate the structure throughout the pilot to determine future actions. I so move, and if I could speak to it.
Thank you.
Second, Your Honor. Councilman Lafredo.
Thank you. Councilman McKeown, go ahead.
This is a program that follows on the food scrap program that is already in effect for our restaurants in town, where organic waste is separated and collected to be sent to an anaerobic plant in Southington, Connecticut. It is a pilot program. It will be held in the central district, the waste district, and it is another step in making our city more sustainable, and in the end will also be a process which will save money for the city in terms of where the waste goes, and we'll have to worry less about putting that organic waste in landfills now, because that's the only option for us in terms of getting rid of this organic waste. So I enthusiastically endorse it and thank the folks in Public Works who are behind the program.
Great. Thank you. Any discussion, any further discussion, I should say, on that? All right. Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? All right. Thank you. Matter passes unanimously, and we'll move on to item F. I'll recognize Councilwoman Salafia.
I have a resolution approving that the mayor, Benjamin D. Florsheim, be authorized to sign and submit an application to the state of Connecticut for a grant in the amount of $15,000 in LoSiP Capital Projects Improvement Program funds for the cost to install an office in the City of Middletown Mayor's office, and that a new line item be created in the capital improvement plan entitled HR Office Install in the amount of $15,000. I so move.
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any discussion on that?
What is this? Oh,
Councilman Faulkner?
an office in City Hall?
Yes, this will be for the construction of a cubicle structure in
Oh,
this building.
cubicle structure, all right. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. Matter passes unanimously. And for item 11G, I'll recognize Councilwoman Carta.
Thank you, Your Honor. Approving that Mayor Benjamin D. Florsheim be authorized to sign and submit an application to the state of Connecticut for a grant in the amount of $20,000 in local capital projects improvement program funds for the cost to install a rooftop unit HVAC, and that a new line item be created in the capital improvement plan entitled American Legion RTU HVAC install in the amount of $20,000. Move approval, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor. Councilman Pacino.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you. Matter passes unanimously. All right, for item H, I'll recognize Councilman McKeown.
Thank you, Your Honor. Approving that Mayor Benjamin D. Florsheim be authorized to sign and submit an application to the state of Connecticut for a grant in the amount of $7,500 in local capital projects improvement program funds for the carpet replacement at 51 Green Street, home of the Youth Services Department, and that a new line item be created in the capital improvement plan entitled 51 Green Street carpet install in the amount of $7,500. So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Your Honor. Councilman Pacino.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? All right, thank you. Matter passes unanimously. And for item I will recognize Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Common Council hereby approves the allocation of the CARES Act CDBG funding to the following Middletown small business: the Main Street Cookery LLC, $5,000. Brodier Law Firm LLC, $5,000. Mind Breaks LLC, $5,000. Joe Krasinski Painting LLC, $5,000, and that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute all contractual paperwork necessary to facilitate the allocation of these grants, subject to review and approval by the Office of General Counsel as to form and content. Move approval, Your Honor.
Second.
Your Honor.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilman Lafredo.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just for the record, in terms of, it's my understanding, in terms of due diligence that's required for all of these grants, funding through CDBG and the like, some of the paperwork, and I think that's covered by authorized to execute all contractual paperwork. There's some outstanding paperwork yet to be provided by some of these folks in order to be actually qualify that as in terms of so forth. So I just want for the record that be clear and noted that there are a few procedural steps that will be required, part of the application process, well underway. So there may be one or two that have yet submitted necessary documentation for their grant to actually be approved. And I just want to make sure that's clear and represented by the action we're taking here this evening. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Faulkner.
Yes, I have a question. What is this related to the annual CDBG?
No. This is the CARES Act funding that we have been using for the $5,000 grants. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I get.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you very much. Matter passes unanimously. And we are moving on now to item T, with those items removed from the agenda, which we'll be revisiting in the near future. So I will recognize now Councilman Ed Ford.
Thank you, Your Honor. As many of you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. This is definitely something that is near and dear to me, this issue that we face in our society. It's a mental health crisis, and so I would like to read this resolution in its entirety tonight for the community. It says, whereas since 1949, the month of May has been recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month in the United States. This recognition began through the organization Mental Health America, who was then known as the National Association for Mental Health, as an effort to raise awareness, reduce the stigma, and educate the public on mental health and mental illness. And whereas great strides in mental health awareness and supports have been made since then as organizations national, regional, and local, such as Mental Health America, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Gilead Community Services here in Middletown, and more have advocated for such a cause. And whereas though great strides have been made in treatment and prevention services, data gathered by national organizations reveal there is more work to be done in increasing supports to mental health and mental illness. Whereas 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year, which is approximately 50 million U.S. adults. This number includes 531,000 Connecticut residents who have a mental health condition, which is over 14% of our state's overall population. And whereas more than half of Americans report that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a negative effect on their mental health, and more than half of the people nationwide with a mental health condition did not receive any treatment in the last year. In February of last year, over 40% of adults in the state of Connecticut reported having symptoms of anxiety or depression, and of that amount, only half had access to counseling or therapy. And whereas 1 in 6 youth ages 6 through 17 in the U.S. experience a mental health disorder each year, and 40,000 youth in the state of Connecticut ages 12 through 17 have depression. And whereas the Middletown Common Council encourages the public to join us in raising awareness and destigmatizing mental health and mental illness, as well as advocating for increased supports, treatment, and prevention efforts which will help improve the lives of individuals all across our state and country. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council in the City of Middletown that May 2022 be recognized and declared as Mental Health Awareness Month in the City of Middletown, Connecticut. I move approval.
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Councilman, for reading that into the record and for the sentiments. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? All right, thank you. Matter passes unanimously, and thank you for that important recognition as we work to continue those efforts as a community. So thank you, Councilman. And we will move on next to item 11U. I will recognize Councilman Nocera for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. Approving adoption of the American Rescue Plan Act Task Force recommendation for the following project in the following amount based on the application submitted to the task force for 545 Main Street applicant, 545 Main Real and LLC description, rehabilitation of the old skating rink building of 545 Main Street, which envisions a year-round creative incubator, marketplace, and entertainment venue, and social space, and aims to provide job training, seminars, health, entertainment venue, and social space, and aims to provide job training, and wellness clinic and other programming to help the community recover from the pandemic and learn about economic relief resources. Amount $750,000, and that the mayor is authorized to learn to prepare and execute any documents necessary to effectuate this American Rescue Plan Act grant. Funding subject to approval as to the content and form by the Office of General Counsel. I enthusiastically support this resolution. I'd like to speak briefly about this.
Second, Your Honor, Councilman Pacina.
Thank you.
Served on the task force having served on the task force and application committee, I'm thrilled to support this endeavor. The principal presenters in this project did a splendid job throughout this grueling process. I have to tell you, it's probably the fourth time or fifth time that we've heard him speak. And the city only benefits from this, and his work so aggressively to get the funding for it. I should mention that I have worked at the Manchester Workspace, which is similar to this. It's on Main Street in Manchester, similar to this project, but this one will outshine many other similar projects throughout our state. I guarantee you. So I ask my colleagues, please support this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilman. We'll go next to Councilman Pacina, followed by Councilman LaFredo.
Thank you, Your Honor. I too am enthusiastically supporting this. The outgrowth of this great project is the continued revitalization of the North End. And also, it'll provide space for public gatherings, which is so important, especially in the north end of Main Street, to bring back. There's other development that's going to happen up there, and I know Mr. Hargraves. He's dedicated. He's enthusiastic. He's open to all kinds of events that are going to be happening there. And when I stood in that area where the roller skating rink was, I'm thinking to myself, you know, we lost a nice activity at the roller skating. Many of us who grew up were there. But I could only imagine, and I'm sure he imagines, and he knows what this space is going to provide for public gatherings and for different events. So, like my colleague, Councilman Nocera, as leaders of our council, I would hope our colleagues would enthusiastically support this first ARPA grant coming forward to us. And I had the distinct pleasure of serving on the task force as well as a ex officio member to work with Councilman Nacera on the rating committee for these various projects. And I'll tell you one thing, Middletown's got it right. We're doing it the right way to the benefit of our city residents and organizations that will come forward. Thank you, Your Honor, for your support.
Thank you, Councilman. We'll go next to Councilman LaFredo, followed by Councilman McKeown.
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, before I speak on the matter, I just wanted to get clarification. Was the request fully granted?
No, this was this one was the full amount requested was 1.5 million, and the amount recommended was 750,000. And that, like I mentioned, had to do with the additional state funding that was secured for the project.
Okay, so that was the part of my clarification. I also have been following this, being a member with my colleagues on the Economic Development Committee. We have been working on this project and been supportive of it and putting together the next financial. But he did receive, as well as two other additional folks, when he received, what, $1 million? Did he receive $1 million from the state as well in terms of bonding? Is that close to it?
The city received, in conjunction with our partners, a $4.5 million total grant from the Community Challenges Program. And that project was one of 3 different projects, so that will be roughly evenly split between those 3 projects. And then in addition to that, the project received $2 million in Urban Act fund through the Urban Act program and state bonding. That will be directly to the 545.
So the taxpayers throughout the state and in the city of Middletown have been supporting this and are supporting this development rather strongly.
That I believe that is our commitment that we're making. Yes.
I thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilman McKeown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I also will be supporting this enthusiastically. It's a great project by Mr. Hargreaves, who is a Middletown native, lives 3 blocks from me in downtown Middletown. And I think we have read about the project. I've talked to him personally. The only thing I would ask, and I think it's planned for the upcoming grantees or potential grantees, is a short presentation of their prospectus when it happens. That was my understanding that we were going to get. We didn't get it in this case. I happen personally to know a lot about it, but I think all of us would like to know about the projects that we'll be funding. I'm quite sure that we will take the hard work of the committee into effect, and I suspect that we will be approving everything that comes through that they have approved. But it would be great for us and the public to know what these projects are. So thank you very much, and enthusiastically support this.
Thank you, Councilman. I will comment on that, but we do have to first change the tape. We're in our final seconds here, so we're going to have to take a quick break.
Do I have to repeat myself?
I think they got you, but we'll have to take a quick break before we vote here, unfortunately. So.
I was going to say, I enthusiastically support.
And while they're
this one I'm excited about. Well, I'm excited about a lot of them.
Presentations,
really.
And we'll work on getting. righty, thank you, everybody. We can resume here. Time is 9:02 p.m. And we'll go.
As I was saying.
Councilman Jones. Thank you, and to that point, we will. I do want to just let everybody know that the original presentations are available and can be viewed on the city website as part of the task force meetings, and we will also look to have those approved applicants come back for some brief presentations before the council. So, thank you, and we'll go next to Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I am the first person speaking on a new recording. I, too, enthusiastically support Mr. Hargraves, and I just want to say that his level of commitment and desire to return home to give back to his community is admirable, and as a member of the EDC, I've been following this project as well, and I encourage my colleagues to take a trip. Do a road trip beyond just listening to the video. I'm sure he would invite others to take a road trip to to the site. So I just want to echo all of the sentiments that I've heard this evening, and I support this resolution as well.
Great. Thank you, Councilwoman. Any further discussion on this? Madam Clerk, I see your hand.
Yeah, just so that you know, there are attachments to the resolution on either iLegislate or Granicus, which includes the PowerPoint presentation material that came. So it may not be the actual presentation, but there should be some documents people can look at.
Great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, any further discussion? All right, seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? All right, thank you very much. Matter passes unanimously, and congratulations. We're looking forward to seeing that project move forward. And thank you, everyone. Before we depart, I do have some appointments this evening, and one of these is a correction from a scrivener's error in a previous appointment, and another, with your approval, I do have an additional appointment that was not on this list, but with the council's approval, I will put that forward for authorization. But let me first do the ones that have been listed here. First, excuse me, to the Human Relations Commission, Alicia Moody, independent party, to be appointed to the balance of a 3-year term to January 31st, 2025, filling the vacancy created by the resignation of Brandy Doyle. This is first term. To the Clean Energy Task Force, Sarah Mendillo, to be appointed as the Chamber of Commerce representative to the balance of a 2-year term to July 31st, 2023, filling the vacancy created by the resignation of Jeffrey Pugliese, first term. To the Housing Authority, Synovia Stone, reappoint to the balance of a 5-year term to March 20th, 2025, third term. And to the Mattabesset District Commission, Gerald Daly, Democrat, correcting term of reappointment to the balance of a 3-year term to March 3rd, 2023, second term, and this is to reflect the corrections of scrivener's errors. Councilman Lafredo, do you have a motive? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Sorry, I saw the light come on. And then just lastly, the one that I will add here, Barbara Noel Peterson to be appointed to the balance of the term on the Estuary Transit District ending March 7th, 2026, replacing Joe Simolis, who has resigned. That'll be for the first term, and we will get the text of that to accurately reflect Councilman Lafredo.
Yes, good evening, Your Honor. I serve on the Clean Energy Task Force and have served this term with Councilman Ed Ford. Attending the meetings from time to time, of course, is a representative from the Chamber, but when we've conducted business and in terms of quorum and so forth, I just want to clarify, I assume that Jeff is not a resident of Jeff Pugliese was not a resident, and to my knowledge, Sarah Mendillo is not a resident either of the city. But as a chamber representative, they do contribute, but it's in terms of discussion purposes. But they have not, and I'm just seeking clarification. They have not been voting members per se. So I just want to ask that question and get it on the record, one way or the other, in terms of how they should be treated in terms of whether or not they have a right to vote on the items that'll come before the Clean Energy Task Force. They haven't, to date, to my knowledge, having served on the Clean Energy, they haven't. Jeff did not vote. But I'll seek your clarification, Your Honor.
I think that I don't have the rules for the Clean Energy Task Force. I think that would be something that could be determined at the committee level by those rules. We do have some committees and commissions where non-city residents are seated on those commissions, both in voting and non-voting roles, depending on the circumstances. So if historically the chamber representative has not been a voting member, that may be reflected in the rules of the Clean Energy Task Force.
That's been how it's been historically treated. I just wanted to clarify for the record with a new person coming on, and we're actually appointing someone in place of Jeff Pugliese.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Correct. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Do I have a motion for the approval of these appointments?
So moved, Councilman Pacina.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Blackwell, seconded. I'm sorry for cutting you off, Councilman. I thought that you were making the motion earlier, but all those, or any discussion on that, first of all? Oh, Madam Clerk. We can't hear you. You're muted still.
Just to answer Councilman Lafredo's question, for the Clean Energy Task Force, the governing ordinance at 14-47 states that the Clean Energy Task Force consists of a minimum of 9 voting city officials and citizens, and that includes a representative from the Chamber of Commerce as a voting representative.
So I guess just I'll follow up with General Counsel then, and then have them formally indicate that clarification, because that's not how it's been treated, at least during my tenure on the committee. So that will clarify. Thank you. I appreciate the information.
14-47.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And that is definitely something we can take up with the General Counsel and then with the task force itself as needed. So, all right. Thank you. Motion is on the floor. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you to everybody for your service on those boards and commissions. I'll entertain at this time a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Councilman Ed Ford.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Thank you to all of our city staff for making this possible, and we'll see you all soon.